Today in my TED Talk, I'm going to talk about implicit racism in an organization. We're going to touch base on what is implicit bias, what are microaggressions, what is the impact it has in an organization, what are some solutions for it, and why we must be aware to these problems. Now I'm going to start out with, everybody here is racist, including me. You might wonder, what is he talking about? He's crazy. I'm not a racist. I'm going to talk about how you might have been implicit biased in your time. Implicit bias affects the organization in a negative way. It is a barrier for the organization to reach potential or reach success. Now, what are implicit biases? According to the Kirwan Institution of Ohio State University, implicit biases are social cognitions that are attitudes and stereotypes that we have that affect our understanding, action, and decisions in an unconscious manner. So you might have thought, oh, I might have clutched my handbag while a colored man was walking, and you did it unconsciously without knowing. Or you might have asked an Asian person, are you Chinese? Instead of asking, what part of Asia are you from? These are all examples of implicit biases. Now, what are microaggressions? Microaggressions are virtually similar to implicit biases. Microaggressions are everyday nonverbal and verbal and environmental slights, snubs, or insults, whenever intentional or unintentional, that are derogatory and hostile messages due to the person's membership to a group. And that is according to Psychology Today. Now, what kind of impact does it have on an employee? Well, the National Institute of Health stated that implicit biases can lead to smoking, can lead to heavy drinking, can lead to aches and pains, increase in cardiovascular illness, breast cancer, obesity, high blood pressure, stress-induced, anxiety disorders, depression, and a loss of self-control that can lead to suicide. It is a very serious problem. Now, how does it impact an organization? Well, Psychology Today states that white American males only make up 33% of the population. Remember that. So 80% of tenured positions are consisted of white males. 80% are House of Representatives. 80 to 85% are in the U.S. Senate. 92% of them are in the Forbes 400 executive CEO level list. 90% of them are school public superintendents. 99.9% of them are athletic team owners, and 97.7% of them are presidents. Now, as you can see, they make up the majority of our organizations, which can also lead to a lack of diversity because it consists of majority of white males. Now, this lack of diversity can lead to a lack of perspective, and that lack of perspective can lead to a lack of ideas being produced because of the lack of perspective that these people have. Now, since these are the majority of people in these organizations, their voice is going to be heard more than the minorities. And their ideas may seem like it's the best solution because of the implicit biases, while the minority group might have better ideas than them. And that can lead to an organization's downfall, or it can lead to them not reaching their full potential. Now, the best solution is implicit bias training. And the most popular training is made by Google and Facebook. And it consists of understanding biases are a part of our human condition, empower the employees to make a change, ensure them that change is good, and ensure them making a change to the implicit biases will only affect them in a positive manner. Have a safe place to understand the biases through discussions. Let them have discussions in a safe room about the implicit biases and what problems they have faced or what they want to eliminate. Experimental components and activities can ensure that they are motivated into changing their implicit biases. Now, making sure that real life consequences of implicit biases are stated so that they can understand the consequences of if they have implicit bias, then this can lead to tension, it can lead to stress, and it can also lead to a low turnover rate. Now, they must recognize where implicit biases happen in their lives so they can nip the problem in the bud, and they can reflect on when they were implicitly biased, so in the future they can eliminate that situation. Now you might wonder, why should I care? Well, if you work for a company that had lack of diversity, it would have less perspectives, which they would have less pool of ideas, and that less pool of ideas will lead to a restriction of your potential in that organization. Now, the hiring process will also benefit to this because companies will hire you based off of your credentials more than your race and gender or what you look like because of the elimination of implicit biases. Your health during the time of work will also be beneficial because of the less stress you will have because of the lessened implicit biases you will face in the organization. It also eliminates accidental racism in the organization, which reduces tension and reduces stress, and it also reduces just anger, anxiety within the organization and employees. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and implicit racism must be aware.